Hey guys, welcome back to Chef Talk and welcome back to my review of Civil War. Civil War was written and directed by Alex Garland, stars Nick Offerman as the president, Kristen Dunst as Lee, Wagner Moura as Joel, Kaylee Spaney as Jesse, and Stephen McKinley Henderson as Sammy. Civil War has a runtime of 1 hour and 49 minutes. Quick synopsis. A group of journalists are trying to make their way to Washington, D.C. before the opposing army can get there and get to the president. Now, I'm going to tell you guys that A24 films for me are either hit or miss. They sometimes knock it out of the park, or they just, tank or not even interest me in any way, shape, or form. But I will admit, going into Civil War, I had hopes. I thought the trailers were intriguing. The premise, at least at the beginning, I thought was an intriguing thing about if America goes into a modern civil war, how would it be? But I'm going to be completely honest here. I am on the fence with Civil War. What I was kind of expecting was going in there, seeing a group of journalists embedded with a military unit. But really what this movie is, in all honesty, is a road trip with 4 journalists. You have Lee, who is the veteran war photographer. You have Joel, who's the young buck, cocky kind of journalist. You have Sammy, who is the over-the-hill journalist that really just wants to do one more story before it's time for him to hang up his press credentials. And then you have Jesse, who is this wide-eye optimist noob war photographer that wants to follow in the footsteps of one of her heroes, who is Lee. But speaking of Jesse, though, that is one of the factors in this movie, or one of the threads, storylines of this movie that I really enjoyed, because I think she had probably the better arc in this movie. We see Jesse at the beginning of this movie as this naive, young person that wants or thinks she wants to get into war photography, but has never really dealt face on with what that actually means. So we get to see her terrified of certain situations that she's put in, or how, feeling overstimulated, over emotional with everything she's having to deal in, to this person that I will say probably gets a little cocky towards the end, thinking that she's seen it all, that she can do what she needs to do, it needs to do what needs to get done. And continuing on, speaking of the acting, it's pretty well done in this movie. You have some great performers in this movie. The reason I say that is because there are scenes in this movie where there is no dialogue. This is kind of Dune-esque, where the director is letting his actors emote and provide the dialogue using their expression, using their body language, and it does really work in this movie sometimes. The actors really do step forward, and you can really feel or really understand the situation they are in and what they are having to deal with pretty much internally, and bringing that forth and showing us what is going on. But I will say probably the MVP for me in this book is also the cinematography. Just like the actors and getting across what the scene is without having any dialogue, the cinematographer did a great job, in my opinion, getting some scenes across and showing us a scene and having us understand what is going on in that scene. Too easy, we could have gotten lost in what was going on, what the scene meant, but there are moments where the scenery alone, the cinematography alone, explained what was going on in the moment. And then to start my kind of dislikes, but also my loves, still continuing with the loves or likes about this movie. My love-hate is the music. There are times in this movie where I am like, why the hell did we choose this music for this scene or for this movie at all? I was getting headaches because some of the scenes or some of the music that was playing. But then I turn around and there were some scenes where that music was spot on. I got the reason why that music was in there. I felt what was the reason for that music. So I kind of have a love-hate with how and where they play some of this music. And then one of my other big dislikes about this movie is that it is very misleading, or at least what we see or what we understand in the trailer about this movie This is pretty much a road trip with journalists heading towards DC. They start out in New York City for some reason, and they're heading toward DC. We're not really put into the middle of action. The middle of action is pretty much to the west. They get put into certain situations, and it is very dire to them. But again, this is really just kind of a road journey, a road trip, but it is until like the last 30 minutes of this movie that we really get to see what we kind of came for this movie to see, and that is the two sides in the Civil War coming together and duking it out. And following on with that, because of how this movie is represented, really, if you didn't call it Civil War, or if you didn't have it take place in America, if you took these four people and you moved them into another country, another situation, you could have had the same movie. I understand why you're using United States of America. You wanted at least the Americans to kind of feel like they had some stake in this movie. But I think it fell flat because of the simple fact that we weren't in the action. We weren't with the military units. We really didn't see anybody's tough choices. In another way, this is misleading. Another way that I thought this movie could have done better was the simple fact that we are pretty much at the end of the Civil War. We don't get really any knowledge or any information about why the Civil War started, why the United States are fractured the way they are. We just get put right into the very end of it. And I think that led to so many missed storylines and characters that we could have seen, especially if you would have brought us towards you didn't even have to bring us into the middle or the end of it, brought us into the middle of it, brought these journalists into the heart of this battle where they're embedded with either the Western Front, with the Loyalist troopers, something, and give us that extra conflict, give us that overall. Civil War is a Civil War movie without really a Civil War. If it could have focused on the Civil War more, I think we could have had a better opportunity with this movie. I think it missed its chance being the type of movie that we thought it was going to be. And like I've said before, and I don't want to keep, pounding this subject in, but I really believe that this movie missed the chance, that Alex Garland missed his chance with us not having our journalists embedded into military units, giving us stories of why the militaries or why the country is split the way they are, why one side chose the other side, XYZ. This movie, the last 30 minutes is what we really want from this movie. And I think if they'd expanded it to be the whole movie, I think we would have had this movie would have been so much more. We could have had the discourse of, okay, what is the journalist's job during a Civil War? Or do they choose a side? Do they try to remain neutral? What story are they trying to pitch? Which story are they trying to get across to fellow Americans? And then also bring that into with, you could have had characters and development and storylines featuring all that with fellow other soldiers from different parts of the country, why they chose where they are at that point, be it one side or the other. This movie could have been so much better if one, it didn't call it Civil War and just they kind of focused on the core of these four journalists in their different stages in life and how they deal with the situations that they're put in. I think that would have been great. That alone would have been a great movie to me if that's what we were pitched. But we weren't pitched that. We were pitched Civil War, and we get very little war. With all that being said, guys, Shep Talk gives Civil War 2 Sheps out of 5. Let me know what you think below. Have you seen Civil War already? Am I right? Were you disappointed that you didn't get more focus on the Civil War and were more misled that this was a journalist-driven movie that really didn't focus too much on the Civil War? Let me know. I would like to have that conversation with you. But with all that being said, guys, that's all I got time for today. Thank you for watching. If you haven't done so already, please remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. It helps my channel out greatly, and I do truly appreciate each and every one of you. But that is all I got time for today, guys. This is Darth Shep, signing off.